You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Today we have Richard, who's the founder and CEO of Sophera Marketing. He's a wealth of knowledge and experience in driving commercial success across the globe, and extensive experience of building and enhanced brands through every marketing channel. And that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for some expertise in all the channels and how to reach our audience. So thanks for joining us here today, Richard.
Billy, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. So a quick review of the process. If you're not familiar, we have 2 minutes for each of these topics. We're going to pick his brain and pull all the knowledge out of his head. If he goes a little bit long, not a big deal. I want to make sure I get all the knowledge I can. And if he goes a little short, we have follow-up questions. And at the very end, he's going to give us the pitch and talk about his business. He has the outro, and then how you can get a hold of him. So that way you can set a meeting and pick his brain even further about how it's relevant to your business. So all set, ready to go, Richard?
Yep, absolutely. Let's go for it.
All right, awesome. My first question for you is going to be, talk about a time where you thought it was a loss in your business and it turned out to be a win.
Definitely when you don't win pitches, I'll be honest, that the immediate factor is there. Oh my word, I've lost. But what I find is that as I've got older, when you don't win it, there's normally a reason that you haven't. And we tend to always think the grass is green and think, oh, if only I'd won that, or if only this had happened, everything would have been glorious and we would have sailed off in the sunset and lived happily ever after. I think that there's always reasons. And I think the key thing is that when you win, you have to look at the reasons you win. And when you lose, you have to look at the reasons that you've lost and be honest with yourself. And let me give you a real example, because that's what we were talking about before, Billy. I lost one last week. And when the job description came out, they were looking for a fractional CMO. It could only have been written with me in mind. Right? You know, when you read it and you think, yeah. I've got it all. And I spoke to the hiring manager and they were like, they're enthusiastic. You put your CV in. And you're almost thinking, well, when am I going to start? And then it comes back with this automated email saying, oh, we've read about you, so we don't want you. And initially you think, oh, there must be some mistake. It can't be me, because this was perfect. But actually, you have to look at that and think, well, where have I gone wrong? What could have I improved? You know, was it the fact they were just looking for 5 headlines would have been sufficient? They didn't need 2 pages on me. There's always something you can learn from every one of these. And I always find that you can turn losses into wins quite easily. Just learn from it. And the other thing I'll tell you, Billy, is the person who's never lost anything has never tried anything. Right? You've got to put yourself out there. And you put yourself out there, you risk rejection, you risk loss. But actually, if you learn from it and you do things differently next time, it's a really valuable experience.
Do you ever do like intentional stopping and reflecting, or is it just like situational?
I'm someone who's relatively analytical by nature. So, but I'll tell you also when's a good time to stop and reflect is when you win. Often when you lose, you're away being reflective, but when you win, you've got to look at, well, what are the reasons I won and how can I replicate that as well? So I would say just constantly analyze win or lose, because there's lessons to be learned in either way.
That's great advice. That's a great way to get us started here today. So as an entrepreneur and you're successful, you're doing all the things. What are some of your best habits?
The number one best habit, Billy, is time to think. And we don't give ourselves this because we somehow think it's a waste of time. And I promise you it's not. There was a US president, the name escapes me. I apologize for the cultural insensitivity. But apparently for 1 hour a day, he used to put a sign on the Oval Office saying, do not disturb. But unless something terrible, do not disturb. That was his thinking time. That was his time when he just wanted to just give himself some space. And I think the best habit I have is when I pull myself out of the weeds and the day-to-day stuff, and you just have 1 hour, go for a walk, read a book, reflect, think, listen to a podcast, listen to live local marketing, whatever it is you wish to do. But you need that time out. You just need that time to say, this is my time. And also, you know, keep physically well, keep active, go for a jog, whatever it may be, do some weights. Don't just become absorbed by work, because you're actually doing yourself a big favor. I remember when I ran big teams, if people used to say, I need an hour to go and pick my kids up from school, or I want to watch a school play, I have to say, the only question I have is, why are you asking me? Right? Go and do it. Just go and do it. Right? If you want to go and watch your kids, if you've got a dentist appointment, or life is becoming a bit overwhelming and you need a couple of hours off and you just want to sit there and watch, I don't know, Don't Blame Her, which I think is All About Her, whatever the big US show we're watching here in the UK is at the moment, then I'm always going to say to people, just take that time off. So the best habit is taking time out, go for a walk, enjoy nature, listen to some music and zone out, because you get refreshed and the body comes back.
Yeah.
In a far
You ever
better
have a
place.
process? You ever have a process like writing stuff down or jotting stuff down, or are you just like it's in your head?
No, I tell you what I do actually, Billy, is I make sure that I put it in the calendar. So if I'm going to go for, rather than saying I'm going to go for a run today, if you say you're going to go for a run today, I promise you it never happens, right? Because the day runs away from you, literally.
Yeah.
If you say between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's my time out for whatever you want to do, and it's put in the calendar, and you keep it sacred like you do for any other meetings, then it happens. So the best habit is to take the time out, and the second best habit is to put the time in to take the time out. Make sure it's in that calendar, because if it's not, you'll deprioritize it and something else will come in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. Absolutely true. All right. So you have a lot of systems out in place. You're doing a lot of different things with the marketing. What types of stuff in your business do you still have hands-on that you do? And what stuff do you pass off to a VA or somebody on the team? A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing and referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
One of the things that I'm very adamant that I want to do is listen to customers and hear from customers and get feedback. Because the most important lesson in marketing, bar none, is not tactical Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's about market orientation, and it's about understanding what the market wants and meeting those needs. And a lot of that means that we have to remove assumptions that you and I make. So even assumptions like when we talked at the beginning, why didn't you win a deal? Or indeed, why did you win a deal? The assumptions we make about what happened are invariably incorrect, right? It's only by talking to the people and staying close to customers and understanding it is the absolute best system you can do. And I would urge anyone, don't move away from that, because what tends to happen is when you start the business, you're involved at the customer end, and then you get more senior, more busy, and you move further and further away from it. And then the irony of it is the person making the decision is furthest away from the actual customer, because you're not seeing them all the time, and that's wrong. So the one system I make sure of is that I'm always there talking to customers. And what I try and do is I segment them. So in the morning, I try and talk to the ones who didn't join or left. It's quite a depressing morning, Billy, right? Go away, have something to eat, feel a bit better about life. And then in the afternoon, talk to the ones who have just joined and ask them why, or they've stayed a long time. And I do that every quarter. So whatever system you let go of, please don't let go of that system. What I think you can let go of is the day-to-day, the emails that are going out there, the administrative tasks, the setting up CRM systems, whatever it may be. That's where you have to learn to step away. But don't step away from the customer stuff, because that's the thing that impacts your business the most.
And it's because it's time consuming. It's an easy way it's an easy one because it's such a time consuming thing. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. So for somebody who's struggling with their marketing, they're just can't find some traction. What is some of the advice that you give them? What's some of the advice you give your clients as far as getting some traction in their marketing?
People talk about marketing plans, Billy, as if they have to be on 75 pages of PowerPoints with graphs and I don't know. Right. Yeah. And brand vision and brand purpose and brand love and all this kind of nonsense, right? When you do a marketing plan, this is the best advice I can give. Just ask yourself 3 or 4 really simple questions. Who am I talking to? And by default, who am I not talking to? Because you're not talking to the whole market. You're talking to a specific segment within a segment. So for me as a fractional CMO, I'm not really talking to the big companies. I'm not talking to the big networks, because they have 250 people in the marketing team. Well, they're never going to ask for one other person to come in, highly unlikely on a fractional basis. Yeah. So work out who you're talking to. Work out how you're going to position yourself. And that's a very easy thing to do. There's a little 3 C's test, which is how I position myself is, what does the customer want? That's the first C, the customer. What can I deliver as a company? That's the second C. And the third C is, what can I do better than the competition? So they're your three tests. What does the customer want? What does I do as a company? And what can I do better than the competition? If you can pass those three C's tests, who am I talking to? What am I saying? And then the vital bit, Billy, is, what does success look like? What are my objectives, right? What is good going to be? And often I think we go into these things and we just hope something happens, and we hope we see something, but we're setting ourselves up to fail. Just be clear. What are we looking at? What matters to us? Is it appointments? Is it more profitable clients? Is it to lose less clients? What is it we're trying to achieve? And be very clear on that, because that gives you the measurement of it before and after. And I promise you one thing, and it sounds mad, but if you're very clear on who you're targeting, what you're saying, and what you're trying to achieve, you're probably ahead of 90% of marketeers in Europe and the US, because I'm not sure they're doing that. And that's
a huge part of your role in that, because some people don't know the answers to that, or they think they know the answers to that. But when you sit down with them and talk to them, those aren't the real answers, I assume.
No, they're not. And then we have to dig a little bit deeper. For example, one of the things people get confused about is, I'm targeting the whole market. Well, unless you're Mars, where you probably genuinely are targeting the whole market. And even then, there's some people who won't eat Mars bars for various different reasons. So you're not really targeting everyone. But let's give or take, or your Coca-Cola, unless you're one of these, or Cadbury's, unless you're one of these enormous brands, you're not targeting everyone. In fact, if you were running we had a very famous example here, Burberry. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Burberry, but it's a clothing brand that's big in the UK. And, it's aimed at a certain clientele, and then they won't lower their prices because they're worried they're going to attract people who they don't want. And then if they attract the people they don't want, the people they do want will look at the other people wearing it and saying, oh, man, I didn't realize they were wearing it. But if they're wearing it, I'm not going to. So that's a very good example of people being very targeted. In Gucci, they want a certain type, right? And there's certain types they don't want. And strategy, Billy, is as much as what you don't do as what you do. Right? So just be very clear on what you're trying to do and who you're trying to target, because if you're someone who builds websites who does SEO, there's a target market for you, but there's also a market that's not your target, and they're the people who are doing it in-house, for example. So don't waste time and resource on that, because you're never going to win.
Never. Yes. That's amazing advice. That's great. Shifting gears a little bit, we're going to talk to you about what some of your best uses of AI are right now.
I'm going to be, Billy, incredibly boring with this. And incredibly
do it.
Right?
Do it.
I have no surprises for anyone than to say that the £20, which is about $28 I spend a month on ChatGPT, is the best $28 I spend every single month, because I've trained this thing, right, to become me. So the thing about AI is, the more you put into it, the better the results are going to be on the outside. And that sounds so obvious, but I see people being lazy with it and then getting frustrated with it. So I have trained ChatGPT to know who I am, my tone of voice, how I speak, what my market is, what I stand for, what I'm positioned for, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, who I want to reach. And I can say to it, build me a media plan, right, based on all of that. And it will do so. But the accuracy of that media plan will only be as good as the inputs that I put into it in the first place. Yep. So this is an 80-20 rule. It will do 80% of the work, but the most important work is the 20% that goes in, and the 20% of checking what comes out. So I think that's the best use of AI is definitely sort of ChatGPT. The other thing is that, I just don't know if people realize how good this is. I can pull up whatever problem I have from a marketing perspective. As long as I put it in there in the right way and I explain myself, it will come up with an answer. And it may not be the answer I want to hear, but I can challenge that answer and say,
yes,
it's amazing, right? So I could say, what would Billy Salmon say about this? And they would look at all your history and all your podcasts, and they'd say, this would be his view on it. Never before in humanity have we had the ability to be so enlightened as to what the great, in marketing, Philip Kotler, probably the best marketing academic we've ever had. You can go to ChatGPT now and say, here's the problem. How would Philip Kotler handle this? And it would read all his books. It would come back to you with the answer. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just...
But you're right, though. It's lazy people. The ones that are lazy and just throw a generic prompt in there, that's what gets the crappy answers, and it's all generic, and you can tell it's AI. People like yourself who like really niche down and give it some specifics, does it turn out the way you need it to turn out? So put the time in. Yeah, that's good.
I agree. You know, I'm very clear with it. My tone of voice is I want to be very human, very relatable, and very clear. I don't want any complexity, right? So if you go to my website, hopefully it's human, it's personable, it's clear. If you listen to how I speak, hopefully human, personable, clear. And everything that comes out of ChatGPT has that style. I just say it's not clear enough. Right, make it clear. I want a 5-year-old to be able to understand it. That's my test.
Yeah, that's right.
I can go back to it and say, do you think a 5-year-old can understand what you've just written? Oh, no, Richard. Sorry, we need to make it clearer. It's your best friend. Use it as your best friend, but educate it. And I promise you the results are
be much better.
Remarkable. And it's $25 a month. You know, it's accessible to the vast majority of us.
That's your lesson. You're walking away. Don't copy and paste. Do the work.
Do the work. Because you will get paid back multiple times as long as you put the work up front. But you've just got to put the work up front in. Do you know?
For you,
tell you a very quick story. But I know we're overrunning, but this is a very quick story. I pressed a button on my computer the other day, and it came up, said you've got a virus, right? That dreaded thing.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of it, put it in ChatGPT, and said, I've got a virus. What do I do? It took me through the steps in about 20 minutes of how to clear the computer away from this virus, right? I'm just saying, use it.
Done.
It's brilliant.
Done. As long as you're smart enough to read it step by step. I do the same thing with my websites. Like you just said, I'll grab my website and I'll do it all up and I'll throw it on there and say, tell me where the blank spots are. Where are the holes? Where are the issues? Where's my SEO crap? And it breaks it down. Yeah. And it just tells me step by step, do this, do that, add these words, do the things. And I can really narrow it down and make my website more effective. So great advice. I just don't need any more virus. Don't need viruses. Let's skip those.
Yeah. And if you do, we'll get rid of it for you.
It got you. It's got you. I love the question of goal setting. So many people do it so many different ways. How do you set goals? How do you set it up for yourself?
Okay. Again, I'm going to be really predictable with my answer here, and I'm going to go back to smart goals. Right? Just make them smart. So smart for the people who don't know. It's very specific. So, you know, from January the 1st to December the 31st, I am going to do X, Y, Z, right? So it needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable. So if it's that I want to improve, you know, my clients, and at the moment I have 25 clients and I want another 10%, then it's going to be by the end of that year, I need 28 clients, or I need 30 clients, right? Whatever the goal is, right? It also needs to be achievable, because I've seen goals being set and I just think, oh my goodness, right? God help you if that's going to be, you know, if that's really what you think is achievable, right? I just think it's absurd. There needs to be a time on it, so a beginning and an end. And as I say, it's just got to be realistic. So if you can do your smart goals, then I think you're in a really, really, really good position. Most people don't. Most people's goals, in my experience, Billy, they're ambiguous. They're not clear. They're vague. You know, they're like, you know, increased brand awareness.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, fine, you can increase brand awareness, but from what to what, you know? So, you know, you've just got to be really, really specific. So be specific, make them measurable, put a time on them, make them achievable. And I think you're in a really, really sort of good place. I don't know, Billy, would you agree with that?
I would. Where's your goals at this year? Are you looking pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. I set my.
You hesitated. You had a little sigh of relief. You had a little sigh there. I don't know.
So always a little sigh there, Billy. I'm going to be honest with you. I think some have been achieved and some haven't. Being honest with you. Fair. I think, you know, what's been achieved is I wanted to get international clients. So I now have some clients in the US, which is great. I set myself quite a realistic amount of clients I would want, and I haven't always achieved that.
Got it.
And some of that is due to me. I'll be honest, Billy, and some of it is due to the market's pretty tough out there, right? So, so it's a good question. Have I achieved them all? No, it's been a mixed bag, and I have to accept that, and I have to learn from that. And but I would rather not hit all my goals.
Exactly. Yep.
And have them in the first place than not have them in the first place and not be able to answer your question. And you go, how have your goals been for this year? And I go, well, I didn't really set any, Billy, right? But it's been quite a good year. Yeah,
Yeah,
what's that?
because that's a generic answer too, right? Like, oh, I
Yeah,
nailed them all.
absolutely.
Like, well, then you got to set it higher. Yeah, have you heard of BAG? Big audacious goals?
I have. I think it came from, what was it, sort of Boston Consulting Group. I think initially, I might be wrong, so it came up with that. And I think they're good. And I think the other thing you can have is short-term goals and
Okay.
longer-term goals. And I think the big audacious goals probably sit in the longer-term goals that I want to achieve. But, goals can be anything. Goals can be number of
Yep.
clients, can be less churn, can be revenue, can be
Can be.
profit, can be, average transaction value. It can be whatever you need it to be. But please document them, have them
Yeah.
down,
Right.
make them realistic. Hold yourself accountable to them. And then if you don't hit them, ask
Fine.
yourself why not. Just understand it. This is not a let's beat up Billy exercise or let's beat up Richard. It's saying maybe they were wrong in the first place, right? So what can I do next year to improve them?
That's it. Like I said, like you said, if everybody hits all the goals all the time, you're not setting the right goals.
No, I totally agree. And that they're not strong enough and they're not audacious enough. So the other thing is, Billy, I'd say this to my clients. I don't want to see more than 3 goals. Ideally, I want to see 2, but I definitely know more than 3. I sometimes come into teams and I say, where are your goals? And 3.5 hours later, we're still going through number 28. And I'm thinking,
it's not going to work. Yeah. There's the
dream
book,
session.
The One Thing. There's a book called The One Thing where you set the one goal. That's it. Yeah. Everything else falls under that.
Otherwise, we're just dreaming. We're not setting goals, right? So it's not going to work.
It's true. So before we get to the business and have you do your pitch at the end here, you talked a little bit about doing running and doing various things, but that's just to get your mind free. What things do you do to like avoid burnout? Because you're running the business, you're handing things off, you're doing a million different things. You got AI, which is a false confidence in us that we can handle all things. How do you avoid burning out in your business and just kind of tapping out?
Look, I think the business is a really, really important part of my life, Billy, but there's other things that are more important, quite honestly. Right? I have a family, they're more important. I have friends, they're more important. I have my health, that's more important. So I think there is a thing about context, and I'm just sort of quite big on making sure there's context to stuff, that the business matters, but so do other things. And so does reading. I love watching films. I love watching documentaries. I love reading. So just make sure it's really, really important in business, but it's one of many things that are really important as well. And I always say, don't let it, if the business comes before your health, you've got a major issue. That, you have. I mean, because the reality is if you're going to get ill, then every other problem is going to be insignificant other than your health. And so just make sure that, that you're grounded and you're balanced, and you keep you have friends that don't do what you do. I'm very lucky, Billy. I'm married to a doctor. So when we come home at night, about our days, right, she talks about far more serious stuff than what I talk about. So, having that contrast, go out, eat in restaurants, be up to date with politics, whatever turns you on, right? Go to the theatre, go to the cinema, read about Shakespeare. Don't watch the news too much because it will just depress you after about 2 minutes.
It's bad. Yeah. But so I assume you also schedule that stuff, though. You sound like a scheduler. Yeah. You sound like, hey, I know my kids have a play this day, or I've got this going on. I got dinner with the wife. It sounds like you're a scheduler.
Totally. One thing I do is my wife, she works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I say to her, Friday morning, we're having breakfast together. So keep between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. free every Friday. And we just have that hour where we can catch up and we can talk to each other and what's the week been like and what are we going to do on the weekend. And if there's any stuff we need to talk about. And, if there's not, you just enjoy each other's company and you talk about whatever you want to do. But again, schedule it, make it happen. It's really important. Yeah. It really is.
So I mean, from this talk, I appreciate the practical nature of how you run your business. Like you don't oversell. Here's the problems. Here's the practical results. Here's the things you can do for your business. Let's plan these things together. It's very down to earth, very practical, and I really appreciate that. So if you can pull us out of here and talk about your business, and then where can people get a hold of you so that way they can set up some time to talk about how to practically solve their business solutions as well.
Sure. Look, but I've really enjoyed it. So thank you is the first thing I want to say. The second thing is the business is Sophera, which is SOPHERA marketing.co.uk. Don't be put off by the .co.uk. I operate globally. So please find me there. What I basically do is what we've talked about here is I offer marketing advice to small SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises who quite honestly can't afford to go to McKinsey and say, hey, can you come and do my marketing? I've done this for 20 years. I've been educated at London School of Economics and London Business School. I've worked for some of the greatest companies in the world. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work. And my goal is just to help businesses. So if your business needs to grow or you're a bit stuck, please just come and chat. My email address is Richard Levy, Levy, at Sophera, Sophera, marketing.co.uk. And the other thing I should mention, Billy, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Richard Levy 1, so the number 1 after my name. And the other thing I should say, and maybe I'll add you to the list, Billy, is that I do a newsletter 2 or 3 times a month. And what happens is globally, people around the world email me in and say, hey, I have this problem, I have this issue. How would you look at it?
That's good.
So this is not me selling anything. It's not me saying, hey, come and use me. It's just me trying to add a little bit of value back. And we have a few thousand subscribers to that. I get about 5 to 10 questions a month. I pick the one I think is most interesting. But it all impacts small and medium-sized businesses. So if you want to subscribe, please just drop me an email, Richard Levy at sopheramarketing.co.uk. I'll add you to the list. And please feel free to ask any questions. The other thing, Billy, is people go, I was a bit shy to ask this question. It's a real cliche, but if you want to ask it, probably 100 other people want to ask it as well. So
it's true.
Just go and ask it. So if you want to ask anything, I would try my best to come up with the answer, whether it's a business or marketing question or anything in between.
That's awesome. We appreciate your time today. I know you're coming from abroad, so the time zones probably threw you off a little bit today, so I appreciate that as well. And I look forward to hopping on that. I'm definitely going to go on that newsletter. I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions. So
please do
that up. Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be, oh my word, another one from Billy, another difficult question from Billy.
That's another one. What a pain in the butt this guy is.
Please do.
All right, sir. We appreciate your time today.
Yeah, likewise. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.